This is CBC Here and Now.
Dumped throughout Goose Bay, so the fact that we actually found something on this site is not a surprise.
A discovery of old barrels in Happy Valley Goose Bay has many in the town wondering what's inside and where they came from.
I think of myself as a solitary person leading a solitary life because I think that the real life I do lead is very solitary.
And in our second half hour tonight, a look back at artist Mary Pratt, her life and legacy. Pratt passed away this week at the age of 83. Welcome to Here and Now. I'm Carolyn Stokes. And I'm Mariana Kelland. We start tonight in Labrador, where a deep find in Happy Valley Goose Bay has opened up a barrel of concerns. Yes, barrel after barrel is being unearthed at a construction project in the town. Here and Now's Jacob Barker reports from the site.
The crew didn't expect to be working here for so long, but barrels like these just seem to keep coming out of the earth. The work is being done as part of a land transfer deal between the Newfoundland group of companies and the town of Happy Valley Goose Bay. It's NGC's contribution towards the $25 million wellness facility that's being built here. Part of that was an electromagnetic survey done on the land here, kind of like running a large metal detector over the land. That's how they found the mess.
There was only one instance where it detected anything of value, we'll say, and that was in that site that we're actually excavating right now.
It isn't uncommon to find garbage buried around Happy Valley Goose Bay. A large remediation project has been ongoing in the town here for years to clean up messes left behind from the military base, and there's a lot of speculation about where these barrels came from. Some in town said they could have contained a material used to treat a road that used to run through this area. In fact, a number of barrels like these were found when preparing a site for a gym that was built just across the road from here. Testing was done there and the soil was deemed to be fine.
Inherently, there's stuff dumped throughout Goose Bay, so the fact that we actually found something on this site is not a surprise, but all we can do is deal with it. It's part of our final cleanup of this property. Stantec,
an environmental consulting firm, has been on site and is sampling the earth to find out what it is.
I wouldn't be concerned at all because these are not full barrels. There's no markings on them that says it's diesel or if it's PCBs. These are inert barrels which have been opened historically and used somewhere else. So all we can do is wait until the sampling comes back.
Well, this is the last of the work that NGC has to do on the site here. And as far as when construction will go ahead on the Wellness Center, the town is still deciding who to award that work to. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
Searchers are on the Strait of Belle Isle off Labrador again today looking for a missing kayaker. A man in his 20s was last seen Saturday in Blanc-Sablon. The Coast Guard says it searched throughout last night into the night but saw no signs of him. A kayak that looks just like his was found on the beach near Forteau. He was reported missing last Wednesday. Several groups are helping on land, from the air, and on the water. Today marks 5 days since a Mount Pearl man in his 60s was last seen. The family of Gerald Anthony say he may have an undiagnosed medical condition, and tonight they're asking for the public's help. Kate McGilfrey reports.
I heard him say goodnight to our cat Tom, and he walked out the door. I heard him just say, "What way am I going to go? Where am I going to go?" Like he was talking about going for a walk that evening.
That was Monday evening, the last time Bonnie Anthony saw her brother. They've lived together on Smallwood Drive in Mount Pearl for decades. She says he isn't the type to go somewhere without telling her.
Like, we're pretty close, and he's not someone who would do that.
Anthony's siblings say it wasn't uncommon for him to take a walk on one of Mount Pearl's many trails, but that he never went far.
No cell phone, no ID of any sorts, no bank cards, I mean, you do have them, but I never took any bank card with them. You don't carry ID. And
since Gerald disappeared, his siblings have grown increasingly worried about his health. They believe he might have an undiagnosed medical condition.
He's had a couple episodes of getting a little faint or weak and been brought around with some chocolate or made to sit down and at his friend's house and revived. And he may be out there just passed out. He could be fine, but we just need to know, and we want to get him home.
The RNC is asking that anyone who has a CCTV system in the area to get in touch if they have footage from Monday evening. They're also asking for people to check their properties for any sign of him.
Sheds in your garden, Anything that's treed or anything, even behind your fences along, if there's a pathway, if you could have a look around.
We just want to get them home, give them a hug, tell them we love them.
Kate McGilvery, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, Mount Pearl drivers know the Commonwealth Avenue area has gotten chaotic. But it's more than just bumpy roads. The city's juggling multiple projects. Here and now, Stephen Miller has more.
Road closures, detours, and temporary loss of water are all too common as crews slog away at a major project around Commonwealth Avenue.
It hasn't really bothered me personally until Wednesday of this week, when I had to take my 85-year-old mom to a specialist appointment, and I couldn't get off the street. I couldn't get up or down, and I was stuck for about 10 minutes here and just not able to go in either direction.
Residents on Roosevelt Avenue are getting their water through a hose connected to fire hydrants, as much of the street is torn up to replace aging infrastructure.
Planning this project, we knew it would be inconvenient for everybody in Mount Pearl, not just our residents, for many of our businesses. This street, basically, Commonwealth Avenue, it dissects the city, and basically you can't get from one end to the other without going through Commonwealth Avenue.
The mayor says the work has been planned in a way that allows a two-way flow of traffic on Commonwealth Avenue to mitigate the inconvenience for residents and businesses. He also says the majority of work in the area, which includes replacing sanitary systems, storm systems, and water supply, is on track to be completed by November, with a smaller phase slated for spring. The project may be on track, but for some residents, it's still been a hassle.
It seems like it's been a long time, on the go. They've been at it over a month now, I guess, right? Started there on Roland Drive, and then I knew it was coming, so I just had to. I guess they got to do by what they got to do. New pipes, new sewer, new water, the whole bit.
The people I spoke with were annoyed at the inconvenience, but they understood the work was required. They just hope things could get back to normal as soon as possible. Stephen Miller, CBC News, Mount Pearl.
A family has donated some land on the West Coast to the Nature Conservancy of Canada. The 80 hectares is located next to the Barishwa Pond Provincial Park near Stephenville. The land comes from Fred and Ralph Carter in memory of their father, Fred Carter Sr., an avid salmon fisherman who was given the land as a child in 1927. Some of the land was donated by the brothers. The rest was purchased from them. The Conservancy paid for that portion with money from the federal government and from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The public will still be allowed to use the land for recreational and traditional uses.
So my brother and I are really happy to be part of this whole event today and to donate the land for everybody to use for all time. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, we have a very happy update to a story we first brought you more than a year ago. A Carmenville couple has gone from the brink of death to creating new life in the span of 12 months. Carly White suffered a major stroke on July 31st of last year. It took emergency brain surgery to save her life. She had been trying for 2 years to have a baby with her husband, Nathaniel, but had no luck. Well, 2 weeks ago, Carly gave birth to Alana Jean, healthy and happy, just shy of 7 pounds. The baby was born 4 days after Carly's stroke anniversary.
Police are looking for the public's help after a business in St. John's was held up earlier this month. The RNC released this surveillance video from traders on Freshwater Road. Police say 2 men wearing masks also had guns when they robbed a store. One of them approached the staff and demanded jewelry. They did get away with some before driving away in a white Hyundai sedan. That vehicle was stolen and has since been recovered.
Thousands of first responders from across Canada and beyond are gathering in Fredericton. They've journeyed there to honor the 2 police officers killed in the line of duty a week ago. Ahead of tomorrow's regimental funeral, we're also learning new details about the shooting that took their lives and those of 2 civilians. A New Brunswick judge has lifted a publication ban on court documents. They give a better picture of events at an apartment complex a week ago. The alleged gunman was shot in the abdomen by police as he fired out an apartment window with a long gun. Constable Rob Costello and Constable Sarah Burns were fatally shot while trying to help two civilians. They were found on the ground along with the male victim, Donnie Robichaud. The female victim, Bobby Lee Wright, was found dead inside her vehicle with a blown-out windshield.
The search for victims in Italy's bridge disaster moved into a new phase early this morning. Heavy equipment began clearing a new search area in Genoa. Searchers are now tunneling into tons of concrete, jagged steel, and crushed vehicles that plunged 45 meters on Tuesday when the 51-year-old bridge collapsed. 4 days into the search, it remains unclear just how many victims are still missing. One investigator puts the number as high as 20. At least 38 people are confirmed dead and 15 injured. Italy has declared Saturday a day of national mourning.
Well, whales are not an uncommon sight in our waters at this time of the year, mainly humpbacks and minkies.
But seeing killer whales is still a fairly rare event, but it's one that Rex Voisey managed to capture recently. Voisey says he took this video of orcas from his boat near Makovic. He says he was about 17 kilometers away from the community in a spot where he goes cod fishing.
In the past few years, he says he's seen killer whales there 4 times.
Wow.
The she, but the drone.
Drones are those big
So drones are dudes and
and these are the workers, the females.
Precious pollinators. Next, we'll go to the botanical garden and talk about National Honeybee Day.
Welcome back to Here and Now. I'm here at the Botanical Garden in St. John's, where they're getting ready to celebrate precious pollinators. Tomorrow is National Honeybee Day in the United States, and the Botanical Garden is putting off an event tomorrow to celebrate that. And joining me now is Kim Shipp, the director of the Botanical Garden. So tell me about this event tomorrow.
Well, tomorrow we're going to be looking at all kinds of pollinators. So we've got celebrating birds and bees and butterflies and a whole host of insects that pollinate our flowers and our food.
And what will people see when they come here tomorrow?
Well, they can see our hive as well as taste some honey.
Do you have a favorite pollinator?
I love the bumblebee, I gotta say.
I'm on a bit of a honeybee kick myself.
Yes, I think you are.
And so the hive is just over there. Can we go have a look?
Please, let's.
All right. This is the beehive, and we're getting to see something pretty special right now. The queen is right here, right? Right there.
Yes.
So
We're so fascinated we can't even stop to talk. But yes, it is pretty special to see the queen.
you have some paint on her so you can see it a bit better.
Exactly. Yeah, that's really helpful because usually she's surrounded by her attendants and very difficult to spot. So normally us hobby beekeepers like to have our queens marked.
So people who are coming by tomorrow, will they get to have this close of a look at the bees as well?
We are hoping to have an observation hive here, and we'll put 4 frames in there. So you may see the queen. You'll certainly see the other bees passing pollen pollen and nectar back and forth, and you'll see them working the honey here that they're developing right here. And this is capped larvae, so you'll get to see all of that up close and personal. This is a drone right here. Right here, the big drone.
You can just pick it up like that?
The drones
don't sting.
So there's a drone. So they're bigger, but if you only have drones in your hive, you're not going to have a productive hive. Okay. They don't feed themselves. They don't do anything except mate with a queen.
Can I?
So
they don't sting?
No, promise.
Look at that. Look. That's gorgeous. Here, I'll put you back, little guy. We talk about this a lot, but it's worth saying again because there is something special in this province when it comes to honeybees, because we have a kind of honeybee that really doesn't exist many places in the world.
We are free of the 4 major diseases that are affecting other bees, and particularly the varroa mite. And when you talk about more people being interested in beekeeping, for the Newfoundland and Labrador Beekeeping Association, it really worries us that somebody may someday decide, I want to keep bees, and just through a lack of knowledge, go order bees somewhere or bring them in. It's important, I think, that governments, beekeepers, and the general public kind of come together and say, we have a really special environment here. We have a really special honeybee, and we need to do everything we can to maintain that.
Well, thank you for showing me the hive, and good luck tomorrow.
And good luck to you on your beekeeping expedition.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, take care.
Another update is brought to you by Take Charge Business Efficiency Program. Over 570 businesses have saved energy and taken charge of their bottom line. Find out how you can too.
Bees give you pure joy.
They're fascinating creatures.
They are, and when she picked up the drone bee?
Yeah, and the drone bees don't sting, but all the other ones around the drone bees do. So it just goes to show how gentle bees are, that they only sting you unless they're really threatened.
Well, I'm glad bees make you happy. The weekend makes me happy, so tell me about the weekend weather.
Lots of people happy. The weekend is looking pretty good. Saturday's decent. Why don't we start with a look at today's highs? My goodness, what a turn of events for temperatures in the province. On the island, 13 degrees as the high in St. John's today, so much cooler than we've been used to. Not so bad on the west coast. Corner Brook got up to 19 degrees, and in Labrador, around the 20-degree mark for most places there. So in Labrador tonight, looking at some showers overnight tonight, mainly cloudy on the island. A few little scattered showers. Could see some drizzle in some places overnight tonight, and a few showers for southeastern Labrador. So cool this evening on the island. Overnight lows about 11 to 13 degrees and mainly cloudy skies. And for Labrador City, Environment Canada didn't even say it was a risk of frost, it was frost. So be prepared for some frost for Lab City this evening. It is cool, 1 degree as the overnight low. So tomorrow, this is the picture. You can see Labrador looking nice and clear throughout the day. Lots of overcast on the island. A few little showers in the Northern Peninsula, and we could see a few little showers on the Avalon as well. So this is a closer look at the eastern portion of the island, just to show you it is mainly cloudy tomorrow, but all of those bits of green could be some scattered showers throughout the day. So if you are heading out, be prepared for maybe a drizzle or two. A high tomorrow in St. John's of 18 degrees as we head to Central. A bit warmer, mainly cloudy there with 21 as the high. A bit cooler up in Twillingate along the coast there. For the West Coast, a chance of showers there throughout the day. Not a huge amount, just some scattered showers. And 18 degrees as the high for most areas on the West Coast. In the Straits, the tip of the Northern Peninsula could see some showers tomorrow, but then clearing in southeastern Labrador, the Cartwright area, and for the rest of Labrador, looking at mainly sunny skies for the east and west, and temperatures a bit nicer than on the island, 20 degrees for Happy Valley Goose Bay for tomorrow. So this is interesting. As we get into Sunday, you can see the system that's moving towards the island. The guidances are all in great disagreement over where this system will land. So there is a chance that we could see a lot of rain for the Avalon Peninsula, or this system here could actually travel to the south and we might not see very much at all. So yeah, that's the caveat for Sunday's forecast for sure. We're not exactly sure how much rain could be coming, but we're looking at a high of 18 degrees for the rest of the island. A chance of showers for Central and sun and cloud for the West Coast, and looking like a nice Sunday for Labrador. So Labrador shaping up for a great weekend. So as we head into Monday, some more showers for Labrador. The island looking quite nice. We're getting some cloud cover move in, but overall we're getting into some decent temperatures in the west. Mid-20s for the west and central. 18 degrees again for the east, and for Labrador, chance of showers, and 26 as the high for eastern Labrador. And that's your forecast. Ariana, back to you.
And we might get some ideas then for ours.
A Newfoundland family and their Boler are among the hundreds gathering in Winnipeg to mark the 50th anniversary of the famous campers.
Welcome back to Here and Now. Well, caravans of Boler camper owners have descended on Winnipeg 5 decades after the iconic fiberglass camping trailer was born.
Organizers are expecting 500 trailers from 9 provinces and 20 U.S. states, including a family from this province who've been driving around North America with their camper.
Yes, they're all in Winnipeg for the 50th anniversary celebrations. Karen Pauls explains.
They're coming from all over the continent, and they're bringing their cute, colorful eggs on wheels with them.
And it weighs 1,050 pounds, tows very easily.
The little trailers with a fanatical following.
This is my 1979 Boler named Miss Daisy.
On the 50th anniversary, it's a pilgrimage to Winnipeg, the birthplace of the Boler.
In our little Boler, which as you can see, it's bigger on the inside.
And because the Boler is so small and cute, we got an awesome parking spot, as you can see.
Welcome to Winnipeg.
Paul and Sonia Dwyer and their 2 teenage daughters traveled more than 10,000 kilometers from Corner Brook, Newfoundland, through the U.S. to BC and then east to Winnipeg.
It's been a long drive.
It has.
They're excited to be here.
I want to see all the other bowlers. I want to see how they're all glamped up.
Yeah.
Yes, and we might get some ideas then for ours.
Right now, theirs is a charming mixture of Boler kitsch and Newfoundland culture.
You just lift up the back of the couch.
The couch converts to a bunk bed.
Lots of room to stretch out, and it's nice and cozy.
The Boler was the brainchild of Winnipegger Ray Aleko. He and his wife were avid campers and hunters.
In the middle of the summer, one time it snowed. When we woke up in the morning, we were blue. And my dad just said, that's enough, we can't do this, no more tenting.
The first Boler trailer rolled off the line in Winnipeg in 1968. It sold for about $1,500. If you can find one now, they sell for $6,000 to $8,000.
The reason why I painted it as a yellow submarine is because I was born the year the song came out, and the Boler was built the year the movie came out.
This is the 17th Boler ever made. It's all 60s all the time.
Usually the bed's along the back, but I added a table here with more cushions.
The Boler has inspired a whole new generation of fiberglass trailers. There's even a 3D printer version on display here. But for many of these diehards, original is best. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
That looks pretty cozy.
Yeah, it does.
Well, tributes continue to pour in tonight for the late Queen of Soul. Ariana Grande singing with the Roots on Jimmy Fallon's show, giving an emotional rendition of the classic A Natural Woman.
Grande said Franklin was one of her heroes and she broke down after the performance. What a voice. And while the world continues to mourn the loss of the Queen of Soul today, the Queen of Pop is marking a milestone. Well, it's hard to believe, but the material girl herself turns 60 today. With a career spanning more than 3 decades, Madonna has broken records and solidified herself as a pop culture icon.
Yes, her first album hit the shelves in 1983, and she has since sold over 300 million records and performed on 10 concert tours. The singer, actor, and humanitarian holds the Guinness World Record for best-selling female recording artist of all time. Definitely doesn't look 60.
I know. Well, it's Friday, so it's time now to see who's celebrating birthdays and anniversaries.
Happy anniversary from family and friends to Onslow and Shirley Hillier of Grand Bank, who are celebrating their 59th wedding anniversary on Sunday. Edward and Carrie Sturge are celebrating 59 years of marriage next Wednesday. Happy 91st birthday to Reg Bowering, now residing in Hillview Crest Estates in Mount Pearl. Love and best wishes from family and friends. Don Harvey of Freshwater, Conception Bay North, is turning 101 years old on Saturday. Don is now living in paradise. Happy 61st wedding anniversary to George and Lizzie Blanche of Jersey Side. They celebrated in July.
Happy 50th wedding anniversary to Eric and Joan Legg from Heart's Delight, Islington. Joan also celebrates her birthday on Saturday. Happy birthday to Elizabeth Williams of Lewisport, who turned 101 on Wednesday. Phyllis Stone is celebrating her 92nd birthday. Phyllis is from Lower Lance Cove, but is now living in Hickman's Harbor. Happy 93rd birthday to Viola Crocker from Heart's Delight, now living in the Goulds. Happy 97th birthday to the oldest resident of Burnt Islands, Garfield Francis. He'll be celebrating tomorrow.
Happy anniversary to Edith and Ted Palmer of New Chelsea, Trinity Bay, who celebrated their 53rd anniversary on Tuesday. Pearl and Don Burton of Fortune celebrated their 66th wedding anniversary on Monday. Happy belated greetings to you. Happy 64th wedding anniversary to Harold and Myrtle Anderson of Gander, who celebrated on Monday. Bram and Lucy Oldford of Gambo are celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary tomorrow. Congratulations. Donald and Florence Bursey celebrated their 68th wedding anniversary yesterday. Formerly of Buckins, they now reside in Grand Falls, Windsor.
Happy anniversary to Clyde and Shirley Ryan, who are celebrating 58 years of marriage. Pastors Jim and Cable Anthony of Clark's Beach are celebrating their 54th wedding anniversary on Tuesday. Congratulations. Happy 55th anniversary to Gil and Shirley Stevens of St. John's. They celebrated on Tuesday. Tom and Joan Strickland of St. Philip's are celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary today. Happy 50th anniversary as well to Bob and Clara Goldsworthy of Port Rexton. They celebrated yesterday.
Another 50th anniversary greeting goes to Bernice and Clyde Reynolds of Harbor Grace. Congratulations to Herbert and Linda Vincent of Corner Brook, who will be celebrating their 65th wedding anniversary this coming Tuesday. Frank and Shirley Bonnell of Pasadena are celebrating 51 years of marriage. Happy anniversary to Anthony and Jessie White of Sandy Cove, who are celebrating 50 years of marriage. Happy 52nd anniversary to Sid and Rosalie Stiles of Stephenville. They celebrated their big day on Wednesday.
Happy 50th wedding anniversary today to Walter and Irene Jacobs of New West Valley. Howard and Helen Michelin of Happy Valley Goose Bay are also celebrating their 50th anniversary today. Wishing Rosie and Rendell House of Pasadena a very happy 58th wedding anniversary. They celebrated on Wednesday. Happy 54th anniversary to Calvin and Sophie White from Western Bay, who also celebrated on Wednesday. And congratulations to Eva and Charlie Gilbert. It's their 63rd anniversary.
Patricia and Hebert Best of Conception Bay South are celebrating their 55th anniversary today. Happy birthday to Evelyn Hatcher, who turned 97 yesterday. Evelyn is formerly from Rose Blanche, but now resides in Port aux Basques. Happy 90th birthday greetings go out to Reg Clark of Victoria. He celebrated his birthday yesterday. Happy 90th birthday to Melinda Spencer of Corner Brook, and happy golden wedding anniversary to Bob and Alice Kinsella.
Welcome back to Here and Now. Well, for the remainder of the show, we're going to share snippets of a Life and Times episode about the complicated relationship between artists Christopher and Mary Pratt.
Mary Pratt passed away this week at age 83. A memorial service is set for next Saturday at St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church in St. John's, followed by a reception at the Rooms.
And for much of Mary Pratt's marriage to Christopher Pratt, the pair lived in separate homes, and that invited a lot of speculation. The pair talk about that and their artistic ambitions in this CBC documentary from 1997.
Christopher and Mary Pratt are accomplished and celebrated. Mary for her visions of life, Christopher for his depictions of dreams. But their matrimony has suffered because of their careers. Afternoons like this and a few dinners a week are all they see of each other now.
The grass looks like it was painted by somebody who didn't know how to paint. It's amateur grass.
The horror of the amateur.
A married couple who love each other, but for the most part can't be together. After this Sunday outing, they'll part, return to their separate studios and their independent lives.
When I was a child, I used to tack papers up inside my bedroom cupboard, my clothes closet, and there was fortunately a light in there, and I used to hold all my paints in a big clamshell and stick the paper up on the wall with Scotch tape and do all my painting in this cupboard, because I had to be alone, and it was the only place in the house where I could actually be alone. And so I think of myself as a solitary person leading a solitary life, because I think that the real life I do lead is very solitary.
Mary's days and most of her nights are spent in her house in St. John's. People know Mary's work to be of the domestic world, food and kitchen and family. She paints vivid realism, sometimes as real as a photograph. But there's more than that. Messages and stories from her own life, like an autobiography strung from one canvas to the next. Christopher's seclusion is an hour away from Mary, in the tiny community of Salmoneer, in the house that was once home for them both, where they raised their 4 kids and made their names in art.
It's much more empty than it was. Well, if a woman is not living there, it sort of loses its touch. And it's very sparse looking, which that's how Christopher is.
Clues of Mary's time at Salmoneer. Her prints on Christopher's wall. She doesn't live here anymore, even though it's the home of her husband, the place she developed as a painter and built a life. But Salmoneer was always a bit of a reach for Mary. She was born in 1935, the same year as Christopher, and raised in New Brunswick society, in a beautiful house on Waterloo Row in Fredericton. Her father was the provincial attorney general, and he doted on his 2 daughters, Barbara and Mary West.
I just went at it. I just blasted away. And I think that came from having been brought up to think that I was perfect. Which is awfully useful if you're going to be a creative person. If you've had parents who think you're wonderful, then you don't have any axe to grind. You don't have to relive your childhood. You don't have to reassess it. You can just enjoy it in retrospect. You can say, oh, gee, that was fun. My parents took painting and the arts very seriously. My mother played the piano beautifully until arthritis crippled her fingers so much that she couldn't. And my father was an amateur painter, and he believed that all women should paint pictures and do the garden and keep house and keep their husbands happy. And, you know, it was the way people thought, and, you know, not bad. It was not a bad way to think. It just was difficult to do somehow for me.
Mary went off to her father's alma mater to study fine art, Mount Allison University in Sackville, New Brunswick. Her education here was intense. Project after rigorous project of still lifes and figure drawing, wine bottles, fruit, and models. Then into one of her classes wandered the young Christopher Pratt, who had just arrived in Sackville, leaving behind his beloved Newfoundland.
I thought, oh my God, you know, I've got to get to know this guy. When I walked with him first, I remember he talked about the marshes and how beautiful they were, and I'd never heard a boy talk like that before. And it would be perhaps the snow was falling, and it was kind of a nice time of the night, you know, the evening. And I would say, isn't this just beautiful? And he would say, no, it's horrible. It is so boring compared to Newfoundland. And I thought, gee, you know, Newfoundland must be really something. I never rose to the defense of New Brunswick and said, well, you jerk, you know, what a thing to say to me. I used to just think, well, Newfoundland must be absolutely wonderful if it's better than this.
Christopher quit pre-med the instant he was told his painting was exceptional. But to do it right, he'd need to be in Newfoundland, where he was rooted and comfortable. So he moved back in with his parents in St. John's. Mary was smitten, a 19-year-old deeply in love. She left Sackville and followed him.
There was a level of support from Mary. There was a bohemianism. I mean, I don't come across as a bohemian. I mean, Mary and I never came across as hippies, I'm sure of that. But think about it. You know, I quit university when kids didn't do that. I was a dropout before it was coined.
In September 1957, they got married in Fredericton. And just before the ceremony, Mary declared that she could have had an ordinary life, marry a doctor or a lawyer. But she opted for the unpredictable.
I didn't want to go to Salmonair. I really didn't want to go to Salmonair. But I went to a place where I didn't understand what people did. I didn't understand their preoccupations. I simply didn't understand. I was in a foreign country. And I was in the process of having many children, 4 children under the age of 6. This is a terrible drain on a woman. Nobody said that in those days. There was not a language. The postpartum depression wasn't even a word. It wasn't even a string of words. I mean, if you felt a bit off, that was the 3rd day after the baby was born, and after that you got with it.
While Mary was busy in the kitchen at Salmonair, Christopher plunged into his work. He had sold a print, Boat in Sand, to the National Gallery in Ottawa when he was still in school. She had come to painting first. Her father had declared her a great talent as a child. But it was Christopher who had been anointed right from the time they first met.
There's no doubt about it that I was very jealous of Christopher. I had been the one who was studying painting, and he was the one who was suddenly successful. I remember Mrs. Lauren Harris met me on the street. We all had to do self-portraits for our graduation piece. And she said, "Oh, Mary, I saw Christopher's portrait today." She said, "I saw yours as well." She said, "But of course Christopher's is a masterpiece." And I was pushing a carriage and had one child on reins. And I thought, oh, God damn, that's probably true. And I sort of lived with that for quite a long time. And the fact is, he was good, and I wasn't. There's no doubt about that. He was good, and he knew where he was going. And I didn't have a clue where I was going. All I could see was one baby after the other after the other.
In Salmonair, Mary was in an environment she had trouble understanding. She had a rambunctious pack of 4 children. She had to be sensitive to the demands of her husband's career. And yet, Mary painted, stealing time to dash off small impressionist-style pieces on her easel in the kitchen. It could hardly be called a career until one summer day in 1969.
The children had left bits and pieces on their plates and so on, and I was just pushing back my chair and getting ready to tell them that they were to clear the table. And I looked at this, and it seemed to be absolutely perfect. What was here in front of me was perfect. And I said to Christopher, "We're going to take the children away because I'm going to paint this." And he said, "Well, that's absolute nonsense. There's all kinds of stuff here. You can't paint this in this time. We got to eat breakfast. Why don't I take a picture for you?" And I had images of myself painting from photographs. And I said, "No, I would never paint from a photograph. I would never do a thing like that." And he said, "Oh, well, you don't have to if you don't want to, but I'm going to take the picture anyway." And months later, when the slides came back, Christopher came with a slide in his hand like this, and he put it in front of me, and he said, "Now, isn't that what you wanted? Isn't that just what you wanted?" And my God, I said, "Yes, yes, that's just what I wanted."
It was the light Mary had been looking for. The quality of light became the most important thing to her the instant she saw the sun moving across the supper table. And working from photographs allowed her to capture that light so she could get it right. Christopher's needs had been the priority in their lives all along, but it was Christopher who was there when she needed him to help her move out from under his shadow.
Christopher had the knowledge that life is not a rehearsal for life. Life is it. That's all you get. And I'd never thought of that before. I always thought that I was getting ready to do something. And I thought that for a very long time, despite the fact that I might roar in and do something in an immediacy, with an immediacy that he didn't have. Still, it was Christopher who knew and who said over and over again, you must get on with this. This is... you are not preparing to do something. You are doing it now.
The life and times of Christopher and Mary Pratt will continue.
Christopher's 61st birthday and a party at Mary's house, surrounded by their 4 kids, grandkids, and relatives.
You're going to help Tiff to open this? Oh, that's a nice bow. Can I put the bow right here? That's a nice... Wait a minute.
When Christopher comes here, to his wife's home, it's by invitation. But they're still very much husband and wife, mother and father, grandpa and grandma.
Anybody who says that we had careers that banged against each other is wrong. The careers were just interlaced. And I mean, I think that he did more for me than I could possibly have done for him.
1980, and rumblings that the most famous marriage in Canadian art was in trouble. Arthritis started to get the better of Mary's body. She needed a hip replacement and a lot of recovery time. The haul into St. John's from Salmonier was too much, so she and Christopher moved into a new home that they'd built in the city.
And I couldn't handle it. I really couldn't. I gave Mary a very hard time. I mean, I didn't give her, and there was no physical abuse or anything. In this day and age, you have to be very careful what you say. But I was petulant, awful. And, you know, Mary actually wound up in hospital. She was so miserable and distressed and whatnot about it all. And I was a candidate for the same thing. And I decided I was just going to move back to this studio, to this room where we are right now.
Mary split her time between the country and the city, but started to stay away from Salmonier more often. The fishing shack had become a beautiful house, but it was never her idea of home. Salmonier carried an immense amount of weight in Mary's life and work. But over the next decade, she spent more time staying in St. John's, working on national arts committees, traveling, and socializing. Most importantly, there was nationwide interest in her art. "1996, the year Mary's largest retrospective toured Canada. Her life was on display, and the centerpiece was Mary's series of paintings of Donna, the Pratt's former housekeeper and Christopher's former model. Those paintings caused a stir from the time Mary had done them in the early 80s. A wife painting nudes of her husband's model using slides he had taken.
I didn't think there was anything much the matter with this. I thought that this was fine. And then when I started to paint Donna in my dressing gown, I was looking at Donna's face. And I suddenly realized that she was looking at Christopher and not me. And of course, this is where the great myth begins.
Anyone who ever saw those paintings wondered what the artist was getting at. But when the touring collection hit Vancouver last year, rumblings and rumors leapt out into the open. A reviewer thought he saw the story of Christopher and Mary's troubled marriage on the wall. He said they were separated and that Donna had been Christopher's lover.
Yes, I know, which is ludicrous. They misquoted Mary by saying, of course I had a different relationship with both of them. You don't have the same, nobody has the same relationship with anybody. So of course our relationship is going to be different.
It's improper to appropriate to Donna origins of all kinds of difficulties and so on. I mean, it just doesn't fit. She just ain't there. She's a friend. There's nothing else to say.
Well, in fact, our lives are different every day, and some days we get on and some days we don't get along. And I think that there are many people our age who would probably be better off living under separate roofs.
Isn't it just amazing, you know? I mean, they have toes and fingers and everything.
That's like people are.
I know, but you think that it would take a while.
Yes.
Half the artists in Canada, half the male artists in Canada of my generation, 10 years younger, 10 years older, are married to girls who went to art school with them. And you've never heard of any of them, but you've heard of Mary. Something had to be right.
Our whole lives have been based on that line of excellence, of denial of other things, towards that end. And the end gets closer and closer, of course. You begin to hear the rumbling of the falls the older you get. And and as you become physically weaker, that the flame at the end becomes brighter, and you just are attracted to that, and you go for it. You go for it more than you ever did, with more determination and with more concentration. And there just isn't room for another human being. There isn't room to be as generous as you must be, and that's too bad. But then the people who say we play bridge and we go to Florida, maybe that's their art, you see, and maybe this is mine.
Very amazing. Remember when we used to go collecting stones with the kids, we'd tell them they could take 3.
Yes.
And if they had 3 in their hand, in order to pick up another one, they had to drop one.
Yeah.
Life's like that, eh?
I guess so.
You got 3 and you want 4, you got to get rid of